Hello, welcome back to our power lunch.
We're a little bit late.
We're a little bit late today. We missed the last couple of weeks, unfortunately. We've been traveling.
As you can probably tell, we don't have our regular, although our background's changed quite a bit in the last little while.
I guess we don't really have a regular background right now, but we're not at home. We're not at home.
We've been on the road actually for the last, it's been over 2 weeks now. So right now we're in Thunder Bay. If you've been following along with us for a while, you know that we do a Northern Ontario trip every single year.
This isn't the first time that we've done a power lunch from Northern Ontario either.
Not the first time we've done a power lunch, I think, from this kitchen.
Well, same building, different kitchen.
True, that's true.
Anyways, your mom moved.
Yeah, within the same building. So we do this trip every year. It allows me to see my family because I'm from Northern Ontario originally. So we've been visiting my mom, visiting my dad, saw a bunch of my family, saw my brothers. So it's been a really good trip. We're just on the last leg of it now, so we're about to start heading home and kind of get back into the regular swing of things.
Mm-hmm.
But a big part of the trip has actually been watching the Olympics.
Yeah, we've had some time, so we've been watching all the Olympics, and it's been interesting. We relayed a lot of that, the kind of the mentality and qualities that Olympians have, and compared it to successful entrepreneurs, and thought that it would be really, really good. And I'm wearing.
I know I don't have my.
I'm wearing the Olympic gear from, what is it, 2 years ago?
It was the
winter
Olympics. Last Winter Olympics.
I don't have this year's.
That's okay. So if you are new to watching our power lunches, my name is Dakota.
And I'm Jeff. Welcome.
And we are the founders of Olympian Investments. That is our multifamily acquisition company. And we do these normally every week. Obviously, it's been a little bit more difficult because we've been on the road the last couple of weeks. But normally we do them every week at 12:30 Eastern on Tuesdays. We talk about everything real estate, business, entrepreneur, mindset, all the good stuff.
And the bad stuff.
And the bad stuff. True. And a big part of this is it's supposed to be interactive. So if you're joining us, make sure you say hi, let us know you're here. If you have something that you want to add to the conversation, if you've been like us and you've been watching a ton of the Olympics and you have something you want to say or something that you learned during the Olympics, throw it into the chat. Yeah, that's pretty well that, I think.
Yeah, we like it to be interactive, as Dakota said. And if you are here, make sure you drop a like. Let us know that you're here and join in the conversation.
Yeah. So we thought, obviously, with it being Olympic times right now, we're kind of coming to it's funny, our trip was very much aligned with the Olympics this year.
Yeah, I think it started like the first day that we arrived in Thunder Bay.
Yeah, it was one of the...
We saw the opening ceremony, so.
Definitely one of the first days we were here. So it's been a lot of fun. I love watching the Olympics. It's fun watching these athletes at the top of their game. You watch all these different sports that maybe you wouldn't normally watch, and you get to cheer for your country, which is a lot of fun. So we've enjoyed it. I think we've discovered some new sports that are maybe not new sports, but watched them for the first time that we really enjoyed. So, and I think something that we were discussing during the Olympics was how the athlete mindset and what it takes to get to the Olympics is actually paralleled really interestingly with being an entrepreneur and growing a really successful business. So we thought it's Olympic time, so why not kind of take advantage of that and have a bit of a discussion on the entrepreneur mindset and how that does parallel with being an athlete in general, and obviously right now an Olympic athlete. So I'm an athlete myself, so I didn't go to the Olympics, to clarify. I didn't go to the Olympics.
But you're competitive.
I am very competitive.
And everybody that's gone to the Olympics is started as competitive.
Yeah, exactly. And I do thank a lot of my competitive sport upbringing for kind of some of the qualities that I bring to the entrepreneur world, because it's given me a lot to work with when I decided to become an entrepreneur. So that's where, I was kind of reflecting on this as the Olympics were going, and how thankful I am to have grown up as a competitive athlete. And I think one of the things that I noticed a lot during the Olympics is that the Olympians kind of talk about this, it's like a decision moment that they have. They're competitive their whole lives. Being a competitive athlete is very difficult, but a lot of them talk about there was like this moment that they said, you know what, I'm going to the Olympics. It's one thing to be a competitive athlete, it's a whole other to be an Olympian.
To push it to that next level.
Yeah, that's a whole other level of training and commitment to be an Olympic athlete. And one of the things that I noticed in a lot of the interviews was them talking about this decision moment, where they said whether they were at the last Olympics and they made that decision that they were going to be at the next Olympics, or they were competitive in their sport and they said, you know what, it's time for us to push to that next level. Either way, there was a moment of decision where it was like, we're going all in, we're going to make this happen.
And you really have to go all in, right? You can't just go half at it.
Yeah,
there's no way.
And that actually reminded me a lot of our story, and this is where the idea of doing this talk started and where it was sparked, because that reminded me of the decision that we made when we were we're still in our entrepreneur journey, but at the very beginning where we decided to make that commitment.
Yeah, when we were in our full-time 9-to-5 jobs, right? We had to make that decision to say, okay, do we want to go into this crazy entrepreneur life full-time? That's the point where we made that decision. We said, okay, we can't half-ass it. We have to go all in.
Mm-hmm. And they talk about, they focus. They really focus in on, that's like the one thing that they're going to be doing now for the next 4 years. Maybe it was 6 years that it took them to really take their level to the next level.
Or for that 13-year-old skateboarder, 2 years. She started during COVID, and then she made it to the Olympics. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Obviously, there are stories that are a little bit different than others. Some people have been training there's some people that
But she still made that decision.
Yes. You still have to make that decision, that you're making that commitment to, whether it's your sport, whether it's your business, that, you're in, it's really like all or nothing at that point. And that's something that I found really interesting, because when we decided to leave our jobs, it was really, it's scary. It's scary making that commitment.
Yeah, we were very comfortable.
And being a competitive athlete, you're almost comfortable in being that competitive athlete. And then when you decide, okay, now we're going to start to stretch ourselves even further, and you've made that commitment, you've set it out to the world, I'm going to be an Olympic athlete, you have almost no choice but to make that happen. So you don't really know how you're going to get there. You just know now you've made that commitment, you've put it out there, and you're going to make it work.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's very much what we did.
For sure. Running into very difficult times when the market shifted, really just pushing through it and not letting yourselves fail, essentially. Right?
Yeah, truly, like I keep saying the word commitment, because that's really what it is. You're committing to that process, and you're saying there's no other option. It doesn't matter what happens. We're figuring this out, and we're going to get there. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's people that make that decision and it doesn't work out. And I think I feel like often it comes down to, there's like a point of wavering, maybe, where they're like, oh, maybe this won't work. The commitment almost falls through because they get scared off by something. Nothing's quite working the way they want it to, so that commitment kind of ends up wavering in some way. So yeah, we made a big decision. We decided to get uncomfortable. It's been moments of extreme discomfort, but I think that's also really important as an entrepreneur. If you go from having a side hustle to like, this is now this is what you want to do, there is that moment where you make that decision and you kind of have to, get rid of all the other options, and this is it. This is what we're focusing on. And it also comes down to like not going down too many different paths.
Yeah, really narrowing your focus, right? You said that at the beginning. So I connected that to almost finding your niche. What is it that you want to do? And zero in on that as a target, and don't try and aim at too many different targets, because you're gonna get lost in the weeds. We've all heard that jack of all trades, master of none. Olympic athletes don't do that. They're not throwing a javelin and also well, I mean, decathlon, that's a different story, decathlon, but we'll leave that one to the side. But yeah, you're right. You're not swimming and you're not diving and you're not throwing a javelin at the same time, right? You really want to focus and really put all of your efforts into the one discipline.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's, I know I went through periods of time as a competitive athlete that like I hated my sport. I hated it, and I was like, I'm going to become a hockey player. There was like a moment I was going to be a hip hop dancer, I would have been an awful hip hop dancer, like terrible. So it's, I'm glad I didn't. But there's moments that you go through that you hate your sport because it's beaten you down so many times, and you still have to just go back to, why you're doing it, why you made that decision, and almost you got to be a little bit stubborn with it.
Yeah. And
have that extreme commitment. And again, it's a lot like business. There's going to be moments where you hate your business and you hate the inconsistency, and maybe something doesn't work out for you the way that you wanted to. Maybe a deal falls through that you've been working on forever, and there might be a moment that you're like, I hate this.
I'm done.
Yeah, what are we doing? Why don't we just go back to this consistency?
Go back to the comfort zone, right? We talk about comfort zone a lot.
Yeah, so it's, going back to having that commitment to the decision that you've made, even if you have moments of like hating what you're doing, work through that, remember why you started doing it, and then just get back on that train. Thank God I didn't become a hip hop dancer.
Thank God. That
would have been really unfortunate for the world.
Also hockey.
I think I'd be a really good hockey player. I'm a little aggressive. I think I'd be a really good hockey player.
Yeah, we were watching rugby. That was really fun to watch, and we were talking about how Dakota would have been a good rugby player.
I'm a little scrappy. Which is why I also think I'd be a good hockey player.
And good in business.
Yeah, the scrappiness.
Because of your scrappy.
It helps. Again,
yeah.
Translations from the sports world into the entrepreneur world.
So maybe you can talk a little bit about the sacrifices as a competitive athlete that you've had to make, and then, I mean, we can only imagine what sacrifices additional would need to be made to become an Olympic athlete.
Yeah, there were a lot of sacrifices, and like you said, I wasn't competitive at the point where I was going to the Olympics, and there was already a lot of sacrifice, and there still is. Like I'm still a competitive figure skater, and there's even been times that you've been, can you come for dinner? Why can't you come for dinner? No, I have practice. I've made this commitment to my team. I have to be there. But I remember, as a teenager, I would do Saturday morning skating, and then I would do Sunday afternoon skating. So all my friends are going out, they're partying on Friday nights, staying out really late, and I have to be at the rink at I have to be on the ice at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. So there's no way I'm going out partying. I'd also skate Friday nights. So there's no way that I'm out with my friends, doing that teenage thing, because I was so committed to my sport. My mom reminded me of the practices that I had to be at 6 a.m. before school started. So you're...
I don't know if I ever got out of bed at 6 in the morning.
You're not even out of bed at 6. You're on the ice at
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
So you're up at 4 then.
Yeah, you're up early. You're going to the rink. It's cold. It's the middle of winter. It's the last place you want to be that early in the morning. I actually, the smell of the rink in the morning is a very distinct smell. But you do it because you love your sport. You do it because you've made that commitment to, for me at the time, I was a single skater, so it was that commitment to yourself. You've made that commitment to your coach to be there on time with your skates on the ice. So there's sacrifices that you have to make, even from a diet perspective. Right? You have to make sure that your body is, I'm not talking about dieting to be a figure skater. It's more keeping your body healthy, making sure that you're eating the right food to fuel yourself. You can't be, I'm not going to say I didn't eat fast food. That would be a lie. But definitely not to the point that some of my friends were.
Right.
I had to keep my body healthy. I had to make sure that I was going to the gym, that I was doing my off-ice training, and that I was at the rink the 5 or 6 times a week.
I could imagine feeling very sluggish if you're not keeping up with that diet and you're not keeping up with kind of the gym regimen and off-ice training.
Yeah, you feel it very quickly. I even when I became an adult skater, before I decided to go back to more competitive skating, even just skating once or twice a week, you can feel the difference versus skating every day. So these are things that you have to do to maintain that, I don't want to say competitive edge, but just to feel right on your skates. So, that trade-off
at the bare minimum, really.
Yeah, to
you
feel
get that competitive edge,
good.
but just to even feel good on your skates.
Yeah.
That's the bare minimum.
Yeah, exactly. So it's there's a lot of sacrifice, spending at least 10 hours a week at the rink, and that's just at the rink, never mind the off-ice training that you're doing. It's a lot when you're a kid.
Oh, for sure. You have all that peer pressure as well, so you need to be very disciplined to be able to avoid that peer pressure of going out on the Friday night and say, no, I have made this commitment to my team, to myself.
Yeah, it's hard. It gets harder as you get a little bit older too, because then you have a bit more independence with your friends. Yeah, I even remember 4 hours a day, 5 days a week in the summer when I did summer school. So now you're not going to the day camps your friends are going to. You're not hanging out with your friends during the day. Your friends are out at camp, doing their thing, but you're at the rink in the middle of the summer, 4 hours a day. That's what it takes, right? And again, you can parallel that to being in business. There are tons of sacrifices that you have to make.
Yeah,
I mean, business.
One of the things that we talk about is, and I think it's said often, is when people leave their 9 to 5 to work for themselves, they end up working 9 to 9, right? But at that same time, you're now working for yourself. You're not working for somebody else. So it's a lot more fulfilling, and you almost enjoy the work more because you know that you're doing it for yourself and for your future.
Yeah, I know even sacrifices when it comes to the financial comforts of having a consistent job.
For sure.
When we had our jobs, we had consistent income. It was very good income. A lot of people thought we were very crazy to be leaving that type of income, especially for how young we were when we left. So we had a lot of people that thought we were just crazy because we've made it. We've got this incredible income and we're just leaving it. And we knew that. And
the benefits, not to mention the benefits.
Yeah, the benefits, the pension. We left it. And, we knew when we left our jobs that we would have to make some financial sacrifices because we couldn't quite live the lifestyle that we were living when we had our jobs. We just the income wasn't quite there yet. We knew we would work hard to get it there, and we would, figure out a way to make that happen. but it wasn't quite there when we left.
That's right.
So we had a lot of discussions about, okay, what does this look like? How do we make these kind of financial sacrifices? What do we need to get a little bit skinnier on? Maybe we take less trips. Maybe, we go out to eat less and make dinners at home more often. So there were sacrifices there. And I mean, as far as sacrifices go, we were still eating. So it's not like that, we were okay.
Yeah,
but
just eating at home more, like you said.
Yeah, you have to make those sacrifices of a lifestyle that you're used to.
Yeah, not going out for drinks as often, or just going out to restaurants and hanging out with your friends and peers and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So there's definitely big decisions that often have to be made when you're deciding that you're focusing on your entrepreneur life. I mean, some people leave their full time and their side gig is already kind of making the same income, so they don't have to quite do that, but that wasn't the case for us. We said, nope, we're gonna make this happen, we're gonna figure it out, and made some sacrifices along the way for that.
Yeah. So I think we'll end this on, what does it take? What do you need to be able to tie all of that together? So we talked about being stubborn, we talked about having discipline, we talked about being very consistent with everything that you're doing and making those sacrifices. What is it that keeps somebody going to be able to kind of tie all that together? And we've talked about it a lot on other episodes, is having a powerful why. Mm-hmm. Right? Why is it that you're doing what you're doing? Why is it that you're going into business for yourself? Why is it that you are training to be an Olympian? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? Mm-hmm. What is that ultimate why?
Mm-hmm. And I think that that kind of ties it all together really nicely, because anytime that, consistency wavers, anytime that focus wavers, you're making these sacrifices and you start wondering why you're making these sacrifices. Now going back to, this is why I'm doing this. And, for an athlete, this is something that they've been working so hard on their entire lives, and this will kind of tie that career together. Like, that's the ultimate title, is to be an Olympian, and beyond that, an Olympic medalist. But if that, for them, that's the why, is we've put all this hard work in and we're going to get to that ultimate title. And then on the business side, it's okay, what is this business doing for you? What's the reason that you got into this? What's it doing for you in the end? Because it's not normally, most often, it's not the actual business itself. Mm-hmm. It's what the business is doing for you and doing for people around you.
And I would say that it's not necessarily the gold medal or the medal that they want, but it's who they're becoming on the way mm-hmm. to achieving that, right? So it's never the end goal. It's not the money. It's not the jewelry at the Olympics. It's who you're becoming along the way. Yeah. That's where you really find the success.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And like I said at the beginning, I have a lot to thank for my competitive sport background, because it allowed me to become a person who can be a successful entrepreneur because of those characteristics that I developed. I wouldn't have had any other opportunity to develop those, especially with that, the consistency and that sacrifice. That's a whole other mindset that you have to get into. I was actually talking to somebody who they're an entrepreneur in the real estate space, and he was saying that in his company he specifically looks for people who were previous or are competitive athletes,
right? Because
there's just a mindset that you end up developing, that
a discipline,
a mindset, a discipline that is very different, I guess. So yeah, I have a lot to thank.
And stubbornness.
Oh my goodness. Very stubborn. But it does. It kind of ends up spilling into other areas.
Mm-hmm. Well, you want to end it there?
I think so. Hopefully you've been watching the Olympics. If not, there's a couple of days left. And there's some Canadians still
We got some
hanging
more.
out.
We got some more medals to win.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. We will be back home next week. So every Tuesday, 12:30 Eastern, we'll be here live on YouTube and Dakota's Facebook profile. Make sure you tune in.
Yeah. See you
Talk to you
next
later.
time.